There's pornography in your child's school library, and it's not going anywhere if the librarians get their way. Board members of the American Association of School Librarians stated that removing material featuring graphic depictions of sex acts from schools is akin to banning books. Meanwhile, the slow creep of critical race theory in America's schools continues, and those brave enough to stand up to it are facing retaliation. An Indiana school administrator was placed on leave for whistleblowing that CRT classes were being taught at his school. So how do concerned parents fight back against this radical curricula? Let's talk to Quisha King, Moms for Liberty Florida chapter co-chair, Patrice Onwuka, director of the Center for Economic Opportunity at the Independent Women's Forum, and Charles Love, executive director at Seeking Educational Excellence and host of the Charles Love Show, all parents of school children. So let me begin with you, Charles. It just seems to me like we have reached a point where our schools are being used to manipulate and indoctrinate children to a very radical agenda. What can parents do to push back against it?
You know, I think the biggest issue is that most people don't know what's going on. We have active parents like the ladies here and others who are trying to sound an alarm. We have some teachers in the school willing to speak up, but most people don't know. I mean, they found out some things when schools went remote, but the biggest issue is that we have to make people aware. You know, the congressman earlier was talking about being full Cherokee, but appreciating America, and BLM saying that, you know, it's racist and colonialists stole the land. But, you know, my family, my father's family grew up in Oklahoma, and I can go into why and how they got there, but most people don't know that because we're not teaching them anything. So there's a lack of education, and and no one's paying attention to what's going on, especially the gender push and the pornography.
Patrice, what are you seeing in terms of the pushback that parents are mounting against this type of radical agenda?
Well, number one, parents are being organized, and I think groups like the Independent Women's Network, affiliated with IWF, we're arming them with the tools to be able to speak out, to seek information, and to understand exactly what their children are being taught, and then to give them a voice to be able to then push back, you know, in different ways. And, you know, whether you're talking about the curricula itself, the types of lessons that are being taught, or even the messages that are being transmitted to our young children, the books that are being introduced, parents are absolutely the number one investors in their children's future, and they should be partners with administrators and with educators. And so it's sad when I see, you know, you have federal officials trying to pit parents against educators. That should not be the case, and that's why I think it's important that parents not just know what's going on in their schools, but are speaking out and bringing to bear, you know, what they believe should rightly be taught in these schools.
Quisha, there seems to be this conflict within the conversation around this, where people are basically saying, you know, well, if you're restricting the teaching of CRT or something along those lines, that you're engaging in something that is anti-free speech, or that is engaged in some kind of creation of a speech code. What is your response to people who make that type of argument, typically from the left, and basically say parents shouldn't have any kind of role in directing what schools are teaching their kids?
My response is, I'm done. I've had it. I have had it. We are literally, there is pornography.
That's a good response.
There is pornography in K through 12. I mean, what is it really going to take? I was trying to come on and be more calm, but the more I hear about this, it really just infuriates me. I don't know what else is it going to take for us to say, you know what? I'm done. I am calling for a mass exodus. This is too far. This is like grooming. Mm-hmm. A child could not go up and open up their laptop and pull up pornography, but they can take a walk to the library at a public school that we are paying for. These are government-run schools that is sanctioning pornography. So yes, it needs to be out of schools. I don't know where these people are. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what these librarians are. This is not just like some regular banning of, you know, some book about something that you don't like. It's pornography to children. Mm-hmm. Hello, it is pornography to children. This is too much. It's too much.
Well, it's infuriating to me because, in part, as you said, this is something you're paying for. You're paying for this whole type of content to even be produced. Patrice, I just find this to be absurd. This is not some higher ed argument about some sophisticated or vague, philosophical debate. This is about the things that are being taught to our children on the taxpayer dime.
Well, exactly. I mean, the discussion about CRT escaped the ivory tower and is now making its way into our K through 12 level. I think that not just about a max exit of students out of the public school system. We need to empower parents who can't afford to send their kids to private schools through, school choice. I think it's so critically important that parents have the resources and can take those resources to give them better options for their kids, and that may be a charter school, it may be a private school, but our taxpayer dollars, we should be able to determine where that goes. And I think that is really what the left is worried about. They're worried that there's not just a mass exodus of parents, particularly parents that probably look like us on this panel, but also that those tax dollars leave failing public schools and go into other places.
I think this is just one of the most important fights to be having. I'm glad that you are all at the tip of the spear on this because it is of the utmost importance to the future of our nation. Thank you all for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.